Anthony, thank you for joining me today.
You left off, and I wrote the foreword to amp up your
And
sales.
you wrote the forward to amp up your sales. I'm sorry.
Where did I find the time for that?
Where did you find the time for that? Actually, reading your bio, it made me think about your most interesting man in the world was what sort of came to mind when all those accolades there.
Least interesting.
At least.
Working.
So, first question. In my new book, Amp Up Your Sales, for which you wrote the foreword, I focus on strategies sellers can use to amp up their sales. In other words, accelerate their sales. So, sales acceleration is the big word of the day here. So, in your mind, what is sales acceleration, and how do you define it?
And that's a great question because everybody has a different definition. A lot of people have a definition based on their product offering or their service offering, and there's all these ideas about what really has to happen to accelerate your sales. In my opinion, if you really want to make sales move faster, there's a couple things that you have to do as a salesperson or as a sales manager, a sales leader, or a sales organization. The first is to target your dream clients. I mean, make sure that you're calling on that subset, that category of clients or prospects where you can create earth-shattering, breathtaking, jaw-dropping, results-producing value that people will say, that's worth paying for and it's worth switching for. And the second thing, once you've identified those targets, begin prospecting. I mean, that's really, if you want to go faster, start filling the funnel.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get into the funnel, and this is the part where a lot of sales organizations struggle, you need a process. And the process is designed to shorten that cycle time between the first introduction and actually starting to create value for your client. And if you follow that process, and that means we create value at every sales interaction. We ask for the commitments we need. We don't leave an appointment without getting the commitment to take the next step together.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you start to compress time. Those are the things that really allow you to produce results faster. I know there's a lot of people who want the shiny object, the secret
Right.
that we're all keeping from them.
Right.
Until they pay us, we're not going to tell them the secret. There's no secret.
You're giving
These
it
are
away for free
fundamentals.
here today.
Yeah, you can have it for free right now.
Right. So if we look at this from the perspective of both the individual as well as the sales manager, let's start with the individual salesperson. So if you're a motivated sales rep and things just aren't going the way you want them to go right now, what are the steps you can take to sort of amp up your sales? What's the first steps you should be looking at?
If you're a salesperson, and there's really, I get emails from two categories of salespeople, and maybe this is your world too. Some are working inside a company where they have a good sales manager that cares about them, that can help them. If you're struggling, the first thing to do is to go to your manager and say, what are you seeing? What am I missing here? I think I'm doing the right things, but I'm not getting the results I want. What's your view of this? Because I want to help myself.
Right.
And then go and find out what that is. And then whatever the development plan is, remember, you're responsible for your own results no matter what happens. In business and in life, you're responsible for figuring out what needs to change and then changing it.
Right.
So, pick up a book. Pick up Amp Up Your Sales. I pick up whatever book draws your attention or that you think is going to fix that gap for you.
Right.
If you need business acumen, maybe pick up Jack Malcolm's book, on business acumen. Pick something up and start studying because you have to improve yourself. That is one group. The group I worry more about that says, I'm having trouble getting started, I'm having trouble ramping up my sale, or the group that work for small companies and they don't have a manager, they haven't been properly trained. And there's a lot of people that follow us, on your blog or on my blog or on the web and over Twitter because they don't really have anybody.
Right.
And I think for you, if you want to amp up your sales, start at the beginning of the process and pick up, your first book's a good book, Zero Time Selling. Pick that book up and start thinking about what you do with leads when you get them and how you're going to be responsive enough to pull yourself out of the box. Pick up our friend Mike Weinberg's book, New Sales Simplified. Pick it up. It's a prospecting hunter's book. And start fixing the problems from the beginning of the process and start thinking about that. Pick up Joe Conrad's book, Snap Selling.
Yep,
Snap Selling is going to give you a really good view of what kind of problems do you need to be prepared to talk about? How do you create value in these client interactions? You're going to have to work on your own development plan. And there's a lot of people who do that successfully because you're not alone. There's blogs, there's books, there's a ton of videos, and you can start developing yourself. And then sign up for programs where you can learn as much as you can so that you can start getting out of whatever gap you're dealing with.
And so if they had to prioritize one thing to look at first, right? I'm going to read a book. I'm going to read my book. I'm going to read Jill's. Read your upcoming book that we can talk about. What's the one thing they should look at first in their own actions to say, okay, I'm going to start at this point? Because, we can't change across a broad spectrum, right? We've got to change on sort of a point-by-point basis. So what would you recommend in that regard?
Well, the book that I'm finishing right now starts with a chapter on self-discipline. And I think the discipline is the cornerstone of all the results you produce in any area of your life. So I would start with a discipline, and I have a discipline list personally, and I recommend that salespeople have a list of disciplines. These aren't goals.
Right.
These aren't something that you can check the box and say, I reached my goal, I'm done. This is something that I do because I'm living and breathing today, and tomorrow when I'm living and breathing, I'm going to do it again because it's important, like diet, like exercise, like all these things that we do as routine maintenance. And on that list should absolutely be prospecting. And I have no idea why people put that off. But the lifeblood of your funnel, your pipeline, is prospecting. It begins with making those calls, sending the emails, asking for referrals. That's the first part. So that's the part that I would want. There's only one thing you can do right now, get really good at prospecting. If you can open those relationships, you will find opportunities. And even if you're not a great salesperson yet, even if you're struggling with other areas, getting in front of clients is going to close that gap for you.
Right, because you get the repetition, you need the practice.
That's right.
So where do you fall on the spectrum of whether salespeople are made or born? I mean, are there innate skills you need, or can anybody master the disciplines, as you talk about, to become a great salesperson?
It's a terrific question. I think the answer is yes. I mean, they can be made and they can be born. I've seen some people, though, and this is when we'll go back to discipline here. I've seen salespeople who are gregarious, charismatic, outgoing, smart, have the business acumen, are perfect in the role that they're in, fail, and produce abysmal results, or lack of results would be a better way to say it, because they have no discipline, no focus, refuse to prospect, and don't do things. And then I've seen people who are introverted, relatively shy, sort of uncomfortable in their own skin, but they pick up the phone and they make their calls and they get in front of customers and they try to help people and be helpful. And you think there's no possible way that this person should succeed, and yet they outproduce other people because they study and they work hard. And when hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard. That's how it goes. And I know the introvert story resonates with you because you had the same thing, your first experience, where they're like, why is Andy here?
That's
He's not this gregarious Alec Baldwin Blake character from Glengarry Glen Ross.
That's right. Yeah. I wasn't the car salesman. Yeah. And yet I did okay, right?
Yeah, you did great.
Well, and I have an example too. I talk about that. I had a client where the top salesperson was pathologically shy. And it was primarily inside, though there was a little bit of a hybrid role. He did a little bit of traveling. But, I worked with him off and on for 3 years, and he could still walk by me in the hall and be too shy to say hi, but get him on the phone with the client, and they just loved him, and he just knocked it out of the park time after time.
It's a funny thing. I have been helping some people with hiring and just telling them, I know you think we're hiring for us, but the main stakeholder in this relationship is the person that they sit down in front of, and it's whether or not they want to buy from them.
That's right.
And you might love them, but if your clients don't want to buy from them, it's not going to work.
So would this be the same advice you would give a solo entrepreneur, like a professional service provider, a lawyer, a CPA, someone who owns a design firm or something like that?
If it was an individual, the first advice I would give them, and the web is a great set of tools for us. If you're in that box, using blogs, using LinkedIn, starting to develop the thought leadership social media space that you can stake out, that's going to help feed your funnel. And when I talk to entrepreneurs and the people in those categories, they're always struggling to get new business because they're terrific at creating value. They're great consultants. They know exactly how to help people. They're super smart, but they put sales and marketing last. And what I ask them to do is put sales and marketing first. Make it the very first thing you do every day, and just do it consistently every single day, and it will totally change your results. A quick story, I spoke at the Ohio Growth Summit. I was a keynote speaker, not last year, but the year before. A lot of entrepreneurs, small business people. And I had a woman come up to me and say, you write a blog post every day. You get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and write a blog post. I don't think I can do that, but I can write a blog post 5 days a week. Is that going to change my results? And I said, if you do it consistently,
right,
it will change your results. So about 90 days later, I get an email from her, which I never expected to get. And she said, I'm up in the morning at 5. I'm writing a blog post every day. I've just won the largest 2 clients I've ever had, and I have 2 more bigger than those in my pipeline right now because I started putting marketing and sales first instead of thinking it was an afterthought to my business.
Right.
And that's true for an entrepreneur as it is for the salesperson.
Yeah, I think for people that haven't heard this, there's various rules. One is the 9 by 9. I don't know if you've heard that. So
I don't know that.
Make 9 calls by 9 o'clock in the morning.
It's a good rule.
So for people putting it first, it's a great thing to think about. You're going to make 9 calls, send 9 emails, whatever, some mix of the number of touches, but that's going to be the first thing you prioritize when you come in the morning.
You could never go wrong following that advice.
Yeah, perfect.